This is Crypto Core Radio, discussing the ideas, people, and projects building the new digital economy. Get the latest on blockchain technology and cryptocurrency updates with your host, Lutz.
All right, hello and welcome to Core Radio. This is Lutz coming to you live with another great show. We have Aventus on with us. Aventus is a new ICO, and they want to educate you on what they're about. So, welcome, guys. Welcome to my show.
Hey, thanks, Lutz. Thanks for having us.
No problemo. Welcome. Happy you're here with us. So. Tell us about Aventus. What's this about?
Yeah, so we're basically doing event ticketing on the blockchain. Now, the blockchain's really nice, gives us some nice properties. There's sort of four main problems that we're trying to solve with Aventus. Now, the first is probably something almost everybody's experienced. It's called, well, we call it touting here in the UK, but I believe in the States it's called scalping. But basically, we're referring to where tickets kind of get bought in a primary release by bots, so like automated computer software, and then resold for massively inflated prices on secondary markets. So a good example of this, Adele was recently here in the UK in the Wembley Arena, and her tickets were selling for £175, and not 10 minutes later they showed up on it sold out in record time. A lot of the true fans couldn't actually get tickets, and 10 minutes later it showed up for like £10,000 on StubHub. So that's the real sort of problem we're looking at there, giving event organizers more control over their secondary market activity and actually allowing them to kind of tap into some of that revenue. So that's the first problem. There are three more. The second is one of counterfeits. So you obviously don't want to show up to an event and after having bought what you thought was a legitimate ticket, not actually gaining admittance. So there's all sorts of, well, the blockchain, obviously, immutable record of things. It's a really nice way of getting rid of this issue. You can always see if you actually do own the ticket that the person is trying to sell you. The third one is one of oversight. So here we're looking at, it's almost two-handed, this one. On the one hand, we've got consumer confusion. So people don't know if they're buying in a primary market, in a secondary market, or even a known to be fraudulent website. I mean, for many events I've attended, I had no idea. And now the problem with this is often people get ripped off. And the other side of this is quite a shady industry, the events, or at least the ticketing industry. So really making sure that companies have overview of exactly where their tickets are being sold, through what channels, and sort of having real-time updatability around that. The final problem we're looking at is one of unsold inventory for events. So many very popular events, especially in sports, you see this. We mainly operate in sports and music, but in sports, what you'll see is very popular events. They won't necessarily sell out. Maybe they'll sell out in the primary market, but then the full stadium won't actually be full. And we have all sorts of nice ways of tweaking this. Now, obviously, you probably knew about a lot of these problems already, but what we're really doing here, a lot of people have tried to address these, but we're coming at it from a new angle, not really. Obviously, it's a technical solution built on blockchain, but it's really an economic model that we're trying to build and get a protocol for industry-wide use for everybody to interact in a good way with each other.
So it's like verify. It's just like you're verifying information on the blockchain, basically?
Kind of. I mean, the whole ticketing life cycle exists in our system, exists in smart contracts on a protocol on the blockchain. So an event organizer can literally set rules about how they want their tickets to be sold. So that's anything from, the primary market price to inflationary caps on the secondary market on resale, and also revenue they want to take on resale. And then they let those tickets be sold, and anyone can plug into the protocol as a sales channel and kind of bid on those tickets to sell them and gain commissions. And it's all under the event organizer's rules. And it also has all the black markets eliminated. So all of the controls they set are kind of, fixed and adhered to throughout the whole life cycle. And so that's really powerful about the blockchain, because you can do that in a decentralized way. Like, it's not a low database where all the events are stored. It's like completely open and anyone can plug in and sell tickets. So you actually help them reach a wider audience like that.
Is there some type of website where this is going to work on?
Yeah, so we're going to build like initially we're going to build sort of a proof of concept application that'll plug into our protocol and then let people actually benefit from this. We actually have an alpha out already where people can go and just kind of play around and get a feel for things. But then our longer term goal is more of a B2B play where we'll go to ticketing companies themselves and plug into them, get rid of, because all ticketing companies have a lot of the same functionality, and we'll just sort of replace the bottom 50%, let them deal with the actual selling of the tickets and the customer service, and we'll be more involved with kind of driving events to the protocol and facilitating a much cheaper and better way of them sort of providing their services.
And what exactly is the type of information that will be recorded on the blockchain?
So like all the tickets selling, you know, like all of the different transactions of who owns a ticket, how that ownership changes, the ticket itself. So it's really nice that now you as a ticket owner can like check to see if you're buying a real ticket, or if, you know, like the ticket that people say you bought on some website is actually, you actually own it, you know, it actually happened. So you'll be able to see all that. And you'll also be able to see details. So details of the event is going to be stored on IPFS. So you'll be able to see all of the reference on the blockchain as well. So we plan to try and put as much of it on there as possible whilst keeping costs down, you know.
Yeah, and obviously we just sort of make sure that the security is still intact, because blockchains are sort of public. Anybody can view any of the data on there. So all your sensitive information is obviously encrypted or secured. And we kind of create a safe way for people to interact with each other, giving away enough information that the oversight that I was talking about, that problem is solved, but not too much so that it would damage anybody from sort of a personal perspective.
What's going to be on IPFS?
The event details, you know, so like some of the multimedia, the event descriptions, some of the ticket descriptions as well. You know, different details about the event that the event organizers would kind of want to publicize, so that people, when they're selling tickets for the event, they can pull that information quite easily and display it on their websites when they're selling.
Gotcha. Now, the information, I know a lot about IPFS. So, is that going to work on the? Is the website going to be on IPFS that's going to carry all this information?
So yeah, we have two sort of different websites. We have one that's the real decentralized application that sort of hits the blockchain directly, and yeah, that'll completely be hosted on IPFS. And then we have another version where you kind of go through a server, but still the sort of front end, the assets and all the front end stuff, that'll always be hosted on IPFS.
Okay. And when you host it on IPFS, what are you using? NeoCities?
Sorry, I missed you there.
So when you're hosting it on IPFS, is that your own node with your own, are you going to host your own node, or will you be using a service like NeoCities?
Yeah, we use Infura for now.
Infura? Is that really?
Yeah, it's Consensus made it. It's like a way they like kind of host nodes for you. They also do Ethereum nodes. They don't manage your private keys or anything. You know, you have to handle that yourself. But you know MetaMask?
No, tell me about it.
MetaMask is like a Chrome plugin that you can. It makes it really easy for you to have like an Ethereum address and a wallet and kind of interact with dApps and stuff like that just from a normal Chrome browser. They use MetaMask. So they use Infura.
Oh, very, very awesome. I'm learning new things. That's great.
Yeah, no. The kind of idea with what we're trying to do is we're building that protocol, and what we really want to do is power other people selling tickets. You know, we're not ticket sellers. We want to be a technology company that sits one level below, you know. So like right now we have a dApp competition for our protocol out, where people, you know, are submitting different ideas for like apps or different like services that could be offered to other ticket sellers that are kind of powered by our protocol.
No, very cool. Is this going to be a token on the Ethereum platform?
Yeah, it is. So we're going to be one of the sort of ERC20 tokens. It's called AVT, our token in particular. And it's sort of general use in the system. We use it to kind of vote on the legitimacy of applications that want to be selling events. They're voting on the legitimacy of events themselves. Obviously, the sort of decentralized governance of the protocol uses various voting properties. And then another side of it is if we delve a little deep into how we sort of solve touting, it's important that you don't know who you sell your ticket to. You don't know who the person is that's receiving your ticket on the secondary market before the transaction happens. Otherwise, we could, like if I knew I was selling a ticket to you, we could just meet in a bar or something, transfer $500 and then book something in the system. Let's say you're only allowed to sell the ticket for $100. Then we'd go and book it in the system for $100, and off the site we'd do $500. Now these are kind of like the black markets we were referring to. You see this a lot, for example, in Australia, where they've capped resale like legally at 10% above face value. You just see these black markets arising. So this sort of non-deterministic settling of tickets between buyers and sellers in the secondary markets requires a thing, we call it the matching process. And our token is sort of integral in that. We kind of have matchers who put up a stake, and then they kind of report on how these tickets are settled. And if they act in a malicious way, they obviously get penalized based on their stake. And if they act in a positive way, they get a small reward for doing so.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Let's talk about tangibility. Is there anything that people could see or touch at the moment? You know, a beta of some type they could check out.
We have an alpha. So you can go to alpha.aventus.io, check out a basic version of the protocol. It doesn't have the voting or anything like that, but you can buy tickets, resell tickets, create events, and redeem your tickets with like QR codes and stuff like that. So that's something there. We also have a few clients who we're actually working with right now using a very basic version of the protocol. See, one of the biggest problems that any of these blockchain companies have is like converting people from the real world who know nothing about cryptocurrencies or blockchain. They get kind of scared by it, So some of the steps we're doing to kind of get there is introducing blockchain as a persistence layer. So, very basic versions of the protocol that kind of model out what they're doing on their ticketing application, but now on the blockchain, and kind of showing them how it works. So next week, we're going to be releasing a visualization of some of this activity from some of our clients to the public, for people to see people actually using this technology,
Right, and the mainstream's always hard group to get, especially when you're saying words like layer and protocols.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah, the sale, it's been interesting to see how things have sort of evolved over the last year or two. Like when we started out with this, nobody knew when we were going into meetings what blockchain even was. So you'd have to kind of educate them on what blockchain is and then tell them what it can kind of do for them. But fortunately, since things have blown up a bit in the last while, everybody seems to have a basic understanding nowadays.
It seems like everyone and their dog wants to do an ICO, so things have definitely changed.
Oh yes, I know. Trust me, I get the requests. Some of them I have to turn down because it's just, yeah. I mean, it's just too blatantly obvious. It's like, okay, you got no plan, you got nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah, we've had a couple guys approach us and they're like, well, we basically want to do an IPO, but we don't feel like the legislation. So what do we do? We're like, well, this is probably not the right game for you.
So, transparency. Tell me about your ICO. Is this? Tell me about the structure. Are there phases?
We tried to make it as simple as possible, because so many people tried these complicated things where they were like moving hard caps and like, secret caps and like uncapped and all these things. And it just didn't really work that well, in my opinion, for some of them. So we went for the simplest structure possible, which is a constant price throughout, 7-day sales starting on September 6th. We have a whitelist application process open now for some of our loyal community members. And all that basically means is them kind of applying through a form with some of their information, us kind of manually checking it over. And then a day before the sale. So from September 5th to the 6th, those whitelisted people can contribute the amount they said they wanted to contribute. And then on the 6th, the sale starts, and that's it. But we had a pre-sale before. So before all this, with some of our clients and strategic partners who helped us a lot along the way.
All right. Yes. I went to Token Summit a couple months ago here in New York City, and they was actually saying that the best strategy is to have your ICO run as long as possible, a year, even 2 years. That's what they were saying. It was very interesting that they think that that's the best strategy as far as ICOs are concerned.
We've decided to only do our ICO for 7 days in total, and the real thinking here, when we were talking to our kind of pre-sale participants, what a lot of them were saying is they don't want to be exposed to the kind of volatility of Ether for a prolonged period of time. So for them, the shorter the sale was, the happier they were with it. So it's interesting to see the different schools of thoughts on this front, and I think we're going to see a lot of sort of research from proper economists and people with more financial backgrounds coming in more and more now, and shedding a bit of light on the matter.
Cool. All right. Is the funds, once people invest, will people be able to see the funds in an account on the blockchain somewhere where it'll be visible?
Yeah, definitely. So the minute you kind of send your Ether into the crowd sale contract, the address you send it from will be given the AVT, and you'll be able to use it. So because we're an ERC20 token, adhering to any kind of standard means you plug in really nicely with all the wallets and the existing infrastructure. So people will be able to see in their wallets very quickly how much AVT they hold almost instantly as soon as they've contributed their funds.
And then also the funds raised will go straight to our multi-sig wallet, and people will be able to see, on Etherscan, like how much of that money is being released at what. Like, we're not going to dump it all, we're going to hold it and be very careful about how much we take out every time. And there's a detailed breakdown of what we use the funds for, and it's mainly just developing the protocol and stuff. So.
Okay. Yeah. That's what transparency is about. People
Yeah,
seeing, where the project is investing their funds.
Exactly.
Everyone becomes part of the project once they invest.
Exactly. And we have some milestones and stuff, and we're going to be putting, after we raise and we have an idea of the funds that we've managed to get, we'll put together a plan of at what points we'll take out which things to fund our different activities, and make sure everyone's in the loop and kind of knows what's going on and what we're spending our money on.
Cool. Very cool. So you went with an ERC20 token, and was it smart contracts? Was that the reason why you went with Ethereum?
So we obviously looked at the sort of various options in the market, and obviously the most established when we started out with this were Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we just couldn't really get the sort of fine-grained functionality we needed from Bitcoin. So there were a couple of other plays that we considered, but the smart contract functionality and the simplicity and nice way it's sort of designed made Ethereum the obvious choice for us.
Okay. I only ask because back in the you go back a couple of years, even just a year, and everyone was creating their own blockchain, and now with the invention of tokens, everyone is creating their own token, which opens up a whole new crowd, because you don't really need much development skill to create a token anymore. Back in the day, you really needed to be a developer to create the blockchain for your coin, and now you're going to tokens. The reason why I ask is because if there's always that threat that if something ever happens to Ethereum, so if something ever happens to Ethereum blockchain, that affects every ERC20 token out there. Same thing with other platforms like Waves. If something happens to the token on Waves platform, something happens to their blockchain, then all those tokens are gone, or whatnot. So creating your own blockchain is, I believe, still an invaluable need, because There's technologies now that are coming out, like Komodo. I don't know if you've heard of Komodo platform. That's another one that it will allow you to put the blockchain in their wallet and utilize it, and be on the platform. But the benefit is that it's all separated, and it's a break of Zcash. So eventually Zcash is coming out with smart contracts too. I believe I don't know what the timeline is for that, but it's coming, and you should know that having a separate chain. So if something happened to Komodo platform, the chain broke, you would still be okay, and all the coins and tokens on the Komodo platform would still be okay. Just a heads up, but nothing's written in stone. You could always move from Ethereum to wherever.
Definitely. I mean, we've been throwing around sort of longer term plans with our dev team, because also with various scaling issues, and you don't really need. If we had a huge event running at the same time a huge ICO was running, we'd have a lot of problems with sort of getting the ticket throughput through there. So we've really sort of been knocking around ideas of maybe at some future point. Nothing's planned at this stage. This is more sort of longer term vision, but talking about looking at maybe forking the Ethereum protocol, making it a little bit more specific to our use case, having our own kind of guys run their, because the various ticketing companies could obviously run their node and could almost create the ticketing blockchain. So we're definitely keeping our eyes open, and we even looked at projects that use the Ethereum virtual machine. So if we could just jump across to something like Rootstock. So yeah, we're very much trying to stay aware of these things, but it's always good to watch out. It's very early days for the industry, isn't it?
It's also interesting what you said, because if you think about, like, if any of these applications that are for like real world industries, like, I don't know, music rights or ticketing or whatever, if any of them grow large enough, the Ethereum itself, like, it wouldn't even be able to handle the kind of volume that like some of the big guys in the industry handle. So you're right, like there really might be a point without any of those issues of it going bust or what have you, where people will actually just need to move over to their own blockchains to get that kind of volume.
Right. I always promote creating your own blockchain, because that's what the technology in Satoshi's dream was about, is to use your own chain and not a glorified chain with bells and whistles. And that's why I point you to Komodo, because Komodo has this now where they're actually, I think they've implemented 100 chains already. If you look at the Agama wallet, you'll see all these coins inside this one platform, which is really cool. And if something goes wrong with Komodo, they still exist and they still work just fine.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so if something happens to Waves, or if something happens to Ethereum or NXT, how many more are there? There's like Civic, right? I mean, there's tons of them out there.
Yeah.
So, we saw it a couple months back. I think there was an ICO, and Ethereum went to a crawl at one point.
Status, yeah, definitely.
That just goes to show you, everything works great until the scalability comes into the picture, and you start seeing volume. That's why Bitcoin is amazing, because Bitcoin still handles pretty well even with the scale issue. I mean, even if you wait a couple hours for your transaction, I mean, it's really not that bad.
Better than a bank, right?
Right, which is a couple days, maybe 2 weeks.
So if you're really pro like separate blockchains, what do you think of Polkadot?
I never heard of Polkadot. What's that? It's a full-time job researching really every one of these things one by one.
Too quickly to stay on top of it, doesn't it?
Gavin Wood, the one of the co-founders of Ethereum, he's making a blockchain that connects other blockchains.
So that all blockchains can kind of talk to each other, and so you don't have that sort of problem of the Oracle where you have to feed data in. They can really sort of retrieve it from other blockchains. That's essentially the core idea there.
Well, I got news for you. Komodo already did that. I mean, it's not something new. Unfortunately, the person that the CEO of Komodo, he's anonymous, and for good reason. Because he's building something that could really cause disruption. So, it's hard for people like him to get out there, and say, "Hey, I'm Gavin Wood. Look what I created." You can't do that. So it's easy for someone like Gavin Wood to take a look at his project and create it himself. And Gavin Wood, if you're listening, feel free to come on my show. So let's get to community and participation. Where are you guys located? You guys have a Slack?
Yeah, so we're the company itself, we're located in London, but our Slack is slack.aventus.io. You can grab an invite there, which will sort of get you to the Aventus city. Things have been picking up a lot in the last while for us. It's getting very busy on there. So yeah, we're on Slack, we're on Twitter, we've got our own Reddit. So if you go to our Aventus, we post all our blog posts through there. And then we were talking about transparency earlier, and that's been something that Annika and I have really worked on a lot to try and be as transparent as we can with this process. So if you check out our blog at blog.aventus.io, there's probably sort of 50, 60 articles there of us trying to talk about how we sort of attack the industry, various company updates. Whenever we got something decent to report, we try and sort of get the community involved and let them know.
All right, very cool. So tell me about the skill set behind Aventus. Do you guys have a team? Who and what do they do? What's their history in the blockchain world?
Yeah. So wait, Alan, why don't you handle this one?
Well, yeah, I guess so Annika and I both know, we both dev for the sort of blockchain side of things in the company, but how we sort of started off with Aventus, Annika and I met at Imperial College in London. We were both doing our masters. I was doing mine in artificial intelligence, and Annika was doing hers in particle physics. And I actually did my thesis with the director of the Cryptocurrency Research and Engineering Center at Imperial, Professor William Nottenbelt, he's one of our advisors now. He's been involved from the beginning. My thesis was on blockchain-based film rights distribution. This was in 2015. And then off the back of that, Annika also sort of got involved, and we started discussing around when we finished off at uni, and after researching sort of film and music industry, we really identified this problem in the ticketing space. And then since then, we kind of built up the team a little more. We have we've just recently hired a head of product, Andy Grant. He's got 15 years plus experience in sort of creating. He was a CTO at two big ticketing companies. I think it was Glueworks and some other one. And he's now just joined on and helped us sort of build things out more. We got some designers involved. The full team's on the website, but yeah, we've got a team of about 7 or 8 people now, and a few sort of contractors here and there working together towards this.
All right. Yeah, I was going to ask about advisors too. Tell me about that advisor again.
Yeah, so this was Professor William Nottenbelt of the Cryptocurrency Research and Engineering Center at Imperial College, that is, here in London. We've also got we got quite a few advisors because we thought it was very important to cover our bases on all fronts. So other noteworthy ones are Professor Mike Waterson. He recently did a report for the UK government on ticketing. So he's a real ticketing expert. He's a professor of economics at Warwick. Then we've got some more sort of industry-based people, Bernie Dillon and Diane Bowers. They've worked with companies like in events for companies like UFC, Hard Rock, all sorts of huge names in America. Then we've also got guys more on the business side. One of our investors, Daniel Masters, they run various sort of crypto products. They've got an exchange traded product in Sweden on the Nasdaq there. Yeah, I think those are the sort of the most noteworthy advisors.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's very important to have advisors, especially from an investment point of view. I'd like to have my projects to have people, that have experience in this, telling them what to do.
Exactly. And also in the industry, like I'm sure the ticketing industry is really traditional. There are like big players that have been there for a while. So we have like Alan said, our head of product, Andy Grant, who's been in the ticketing industry for like 10 years or more, and some of our advisors who've been in live entertainment for a while, and they really they come from that other angle, of like, okay, well, you can't just show this industry some new cool technology. They're just going to kick you out. You have to work with the ways they work and try and slowly change it rather than just dropping it there.
Gotcha. How do you plan on educating the public on about your product and how it works?
Yeah, so one thing there's two sides to the public, I suppose. It's the kind of crypto community, which we have to educate about the ticketing industry, and then the kind of ticketing industry and event goers that we have to educate about the crypto industry, because the two are quite non-overlapping, if you will, which is kind of interesting. But on the kind of general non-crypto front, the way we kind of handle it is we're starting with more centralized services. So there's obviously the blockchain underneath, but we put a server on top. And like a lot of the clients we're working with now, they interact with the server, and we handle all of the crypto payments. We just let everyone pay in credit cards, and we kind of handle everything underneath. So we manage their accounts, their Ethereum accounts as well. So they don't even have to deal with the cryptocurrencies.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, but it's kind of worth it to get that kind of mass adoption. When you show up to some of these guys, you can't say, okay, well, download MetaMask or whatever, my Ether wallet, go to an exchange, buy Ether, transfer it to that, and then start interacting with our system. Like, it's just gonna go away over their heads. So the way we kind of start is by building that whole kind of ecosystem there for them, so that they don't really have to do that.
Are there any legal aspects to this, like permits you need, things you need to be careful about doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, you can't just, especially if you work with someone like Stripe, for example, you can't like receive all the money to your account and then pay people out. That's kind of against the rules. You have to use people that exist, like Changely or Uphold or MetalPay is coming soon. Guys who are focused on this as their kind of primary product, like that kind of crypto fiat conversion mechanism.
Okay, that's very cool. So what's the name of your website again, so people know?
Yeah, it's Aventus, so aventus.io.
That's Aventus, not E. It's like Aventus, but with an A.
Gotcha. I just wanted to put it on so people could go there now and take a look at it. Also, yeah, we have about 40 people listening, unique listeners at the moment, and 57 regular listeners. So unique means that they haven't been here before.
Cool.
Yeah, I just did a little tweet before we started. Normally, in the future, if you want to do a show again, we'll promote it for a week in advance, and it'll probably be a few hundred people listening live. But
Okay.
so, and do you know of any competitors that might be doing the same thing that you're doing?
Yeah, so there are a couple of other. So if we sort of look at it at the top level of ticketing on blockchain, there are a few guys who are doing it. There's some guys in the Netherlands called Guts. There's some guys, I think they've got a bit more of a distributed team, but called Blocktix. And then there are a few smaller guys, or guys who seem to have given up, like Lava Movement or whatnot. They haven't been active for a while. But what most of these guys are looking at doing is really being ticket agents. So they want to sell tickets or organize their own events, and be sort of that full stack. So they're all B2C, we're more B2B. There's not anybody trying to do sort of the industry-wide infrastructure that anybody can plug into. But then on that front, we kind of have more centralized models that compete there. But yeah, no real big companies yet, and we're hoping that the more people get involved in the space, the better. Really, we need to put pressure on the industry to start dealing with some of these problems. That's our perspective to this thing, anyway.
Right, and there's special use cases for centralized, and there's other cases for decentralized. Some things you really don't need to go decentralized with, unless you're planning to evade some type of attack. you know. But
Exactly.
you could be centralized, and that'll be perfectly fine. A lot of people like centralization.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with things like this, though, it's really the real need for like a decentralized thing in this industry is that whole concept of who's selling tickets, you know? Because right now you have ticketing applications and they'll like allow event organizers to come and create events and, you know, create their tickets and everything. And then on the other side, they'll have a user base that's sitting there and you know, like buying tickets, and they're trying to curate that user base so they can attract more event organizers. With the blockchain, you can kind of disintermediate these processes, so like people can focus solely on selling tickets because they have a great user base, and then other people can focus on, you know, the whole event and ticket creation processes because they have nice ideas around that, you know.
And we almost build up, so we de-silo the whole thing. Events aren't now sitting in Ticketmaster's database and whatever, like StubHubs for the secondary market, but they all sit on the blockchain. It's just like a global pool of events, and anybody can kind of tap into it as long as they sort of behave properly, governed sort of by the economic model of the system. That's really what we're trying to do, de-silo that whole thing at the bottommost level.
Right. Ticketmaster seems to be a monopoly at the moment.
That's for sure, and it's we've heard a lot of horror stories about how you can get in trouble if you try and go up against them. So we're really looking to be something complementary to existing ticketing companies.
Well, you know, when that type of competition comes along, that's why you go decentralized, because then they can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because they can't, it's not like, I mean, hopefully, you know, at some point, hopefully that kind of market cap of AVT will get large enough that they can't just buy it and take it for themselves. You know, they'll have to participate or start their own, I guess.
Very cool. So the roadmap is located on the website, and right?
Yep.
And okay, and when do you feel that you guys will have a working, you know, product ready, and how much are you planning to raise? You know, what do you need to get the job done, basically?
Yeah, so we'll be live with a couple of clients in the next sort of 2 weeks to a month. But that's sort of a really initial skeleton version of everything we're going to be building. We should have a public beta by the end of the year, let's say sort of December time, I think it's planned. And then I think June next year is when we plan to go sort of full steam into production.
Yeah, it was the real philosophy that we have is building things iteratively, you know. So we're going to be live with a client in literally a few days from now that we'll be able to show people, but it's going to be a really scaled back version. And then, you know, based on their feedback, based on others' feedback, we build up and up and up. So through the whole time, we'll be updating the community and showing them how we progress. But, you know, it's not like, and there will be releases over time, but, you know, it's not like we'll be quiet for like 3 months and then drop some big thing, you know. People will know as we're building and where we're at.
Very cool, very cool. What are you guys doing for marketing? Are you do you guys have a marketing company you work with?
So for the sort of ICO now, yep, we have a marketing company and sort of a PR company that we work with. Also various ones depending on the jurisdictions we're involved in. So some in China, some sort of in the main territories. But the plan going forward, given the sort of B2B strategy, is it's a lot less marketing intense than it would be doing sort of a B2C thing. And post ICO, we don't have any marketing company or any deal lined up yet, but we'll sort of plug that in as and when is needed. But we feel there'll be a lot less of a need for that than there is right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you know, from an investor point of view, a lot of people before and after say they want to know that what they invested in will be marketed out to the public so that, you know, it achieves the success it could.
Definitely. Yeah, we already we'll have a guy managing the crypto community full time, you know, throughout the ICO and then after it closes as well. And one of the PR firms we work with now we'll probably continue working with as well. So we're kind of occupied on those fronts. But, you know, as the product changes and evolves, those needs might change depending on how the customers and stuff change, you know.
Gotcha. I work for a company called coregroup.info. They do press releases. They have a hard magazine that's sent to your house. They have me as the radio branch. They have a website called coremedia.info. where we release articles daily. We have 4 writers writing for us and many part-timers, graphics people. So if you want to check it out, coregroup.info is our marketing firm here.
Cool.
Great, thanks. We'll give that a look, and yeah, we definitely have another conversation about that.
We have a very exciting service coming out soon because we're all spread out all over the place. Australia, I'm in New York City. We're going to be creating a service where we could attend conferences for you. So, we set up a table, we'll put all your information out, we'll tell people about you. It's pretty exciting. So the owners don't have to go themselves to these conferences all the time,
Yeah, that's awesome. Wait a minute. This is I think we were actually featured in one of your sort of digital online is it like an online magazine?
Yep, Core Media. Info, yeah.
Yeah, we did an interview in that maybe about a month back now. The 23rd of July, that issue 23 in July.
Oh, very cool, very cool. I'm just a radio guy. I can't write for my life, so.
Yeah, but me neither.
I don't have the patience. I've tried a few times. It's just it'll take me 2 days, and then people will say it's not very good. So I give up.
Yeah, it's really hard, especially like the different styles of writing. It's one thing writing a white paper, but then like a blog post, it's like so different. And having to do both is like, it drives you crazy.
Yeah, no, you should see Annika and I go back and forth before we release any of these blog posts. It definitely takes a while for us to do it. We're definitely not professionals in that area ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's why we hire the professionals.
Exactly.
It's really hard to find people in any of the aspects that deal with crypto. I just had a meeting, and we're looking for developers, and for a project. And the problem is there's a lot of developers. They all know Java, C++, right? But the problem is none of them are in tune to the crypto world. So when you try to bring them into the crypto world, they're like, "What is all this?" So you need to find somebody that really knows crypto and does their job normally too. So you need to know if it's a marketing firm, you can't go to any marketing firm because